If there has ever been a profession dedicated to collaboration, team effort, and people coming together, it is preservation. From day one, preservation has been a team sport, relying on the efforts and work of many to bring about amazing transformations in our communities, neighborhoods, cities, and towns. It is a movement, a profession, an ethic, and a calling that has grown from those small groups of committed citizens to a powerful industry that has impacts far beyond the bricks and mortar of buildings. If ever there was a time to come together and celebrate that impact and the team spirit that has brought it to bear again and again, it is now. As a movement, a profession, and an industry, historic preservation has achieved a tremendous amount of success in the 50 years since the signing of the National Historic Preservation Act. Now preservation is poised to do even more, economically, historically, environmentally, and physically by creating a bridge between our past, present, and future. This year's honorees will show just how incredible and far-reaching those accomplishments are. The purpose for this year's Paul and Niki Tsongas Awards is twofold. One, to celebrate extraordinary restoration projects and their dedicated teams here in Massachusetts. And two, use Massachusetts as a template for regional and national preservation advocacy. In the coming months, tonight's honorees and program will form the basis of a series of print and digital models that will be shared with our partners across the country to assist and inspire them in their preservation advocacy efforts. As education is at the core of Preservation Massachusetts' mission, we are constantly educating elected officials and others why preservation matters, why federal and state programs are important, why funding matters, and how they all have not only restored historic buildings, but saved neighborhoods, created jobs, and brought economic stability and vitality. Through positivity and partnership, we will prove the importance and power of preservation, its programs, its impact, and its intrinsic value to building a future for our children, our state, and our country. Using your collective voices and stories, we will show why preservation is important to the next chapter of our American story, and encourage others to do the same. Preservation Massachusetts is extremely honored to be recognizing each awardee this evening for their powerful commitment to historic preservation, their community, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Ladies and gentlemen, Preservation Massachusetts is proud to present the 2017 Paul and Niki Tsongas Awards, The Power of Preservation. The foundation of preservation lies in partnerships. No one person, company, or organization can do it alone. In the course of a project or a campaign, the bonds of partnership help to create a stronger and more vital preservation community. At Mass Development, the Transformative Development Initiative is designed to implement locally initiated, strategic, and catalytic revitalization in key gateway city districts. With the core team and in-the-field fellows, the TDI program is deploying technical assistance, funds, and tools, including historic district evaluations, to help these communities capitalize on their extraordinary historical assets as part of their future growth. The TDI program not only engages communities, but opens up opportunities for the rehabilitation of individual historic buildings and whole commercial districts across the Commonwealth, and position these communities for a well-deserved comeback. Everyone has their own idea of what a main street is, but there is one thing that is undeniable, that main streets are critical components to our communities. They are incubators for life, energy, business, and vitality. Bringing main streets back to life through preservation can have a resounding impact on the surrounding area. The rehabilitation of Plymouth's Post Office Square serves as an example for the potential of other underutilized commercial buildings in the downtown area and across the Commonwealth. Having a vibrant town center is key for the growth of any region, and the 1620 Capital LLC Group and their team has certainly set the bar high with this project. With their diligent attention to detail and creativity, the post office is now restored to its original grandeur. The restoration utilized a series of programs, including historic tax credits, created jobs, preserves an original building use, and with new residential and office space, brings new energy to an important piece of Plymouth's Main Street. Hotel on North has been called a game changer for downtown Pittsfield. The restoration of the historic Burns block and Burns' new block into a boutique hotel has tremendous potential to catalyze further economic development in the area and is seen as a symbol for the future potential of Pittsfield and all of Berkshire County. In a short span of 9 months, from demolition to doors open, Hotel on North breathed new life onto North Main Street in Pittsfield. The hotel has been enthusiastically heralded in the Berkshires and beyond, named as one of the best new hotels of 2015 by Architectural Digest. Hotel on North is not just a hotel. It is an example of community collaboration, how important our main streets are to our communities, and the catalytic impact of historic preservation. The transformation of Joshua Ward's 18th century Salem home into an 11-room inn called the Merchant included great care, attention to detail with respects to historic elements, creativity, and dedication. With interior elements done by Samuel McIntyre, and even a stay from George Washington, this formerly vacant structure now has new life and energy. Seeger Architects and the owners worked carefully with local historical organizations in order to create guest rooms, restore historic elements, and add amenities. The result is a unique hotel option in one of the Commonwealth's most historic cities that pays homage to its past with 21st century thinking. The Merchant shows how to make the most of a community's past to create something great for the future. Like communities, preservation projects come in all shapes and sizes, from entire building complexes to historic houses on a residential street. The scale may differ, but the dedication required is the same, and their impact is just as critical. Abbott Mill in Westford may appear to be just another mill rehabilitation, but it is really about the unique and intimate links between the neighborhood and the redevelopment of the mill. Preservation is really about people, and those people that played a role in helping Ewell Development tackle this large project, from the Forge Village Association to the local workers on the project, certainly left their mark. The result of the first phase is more than just 131 units of housing and the reactivation of an important part of this village's past. It is about relationships and people. The long road to the mill's restoration is made much more meaningful because of the people who were involved and who make up that great community. From a mill village to a world-class center of medicine, the restoration of Gordon Hall at Harvard Medical School in Boston represents an extraordinary commitment to preserving an iconic Boston building. The combination of strong institutional commitment from the Harvard Medical School and the experience and passion of the entire design team was essential for a successful yet complex restoration, which included replicating intricate elements to blend seamlessly with original features. A special level of skill and care was demonstrated from the design team to the actual craftsmen executing the restoration, and now this iconic landmark can serve the school for another century. The William W. Kimball House in Arlington is a wonderful example of the Greek Revival style that is once again a gem upon Winter Street. Despite being listed as one of the best preserved groups of this style in East Arlington, the house had suffered years of deferred maintenance and insensitive upgrades. Capstone Communities undertook the project, committed to honoring the historic character of the house while creating 6 units of housing. The results are truly remarkable and have breathed new life and energy into this property. Even smaller scale projects, though no less arduous or demanding in their undertaking, can have a great impact on a street, in a neighborhood, and as part of a community. Preservation is not an easy undertaking, nor is it inexpensive. But the investments made in these historic buildings, and in the visions for them, give great returns back to their communities with more than just dollars. But dollars and investments are needed to make that vision a reality, and ensuring that there are adequate funding sources and programs in place is critical to the continued success of preservation. The rehabilitation of the Ames Chapel at Hingham Cemetery represents the culmination of a dedicated community initiative to preserve and revitalize a treasured local landmark. Thanks to the leadership of the Cemetery Board, grants and donations were received from the Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund, the Hingham Community Preservation Act, the Hingham Historical Commission. These were supplemented by monies from the cemetery's endowment and by creative outreach to private donors through media, tours, and even a flyer inserted into town electric bills. The enthusiasm engendered by the project was expressed by a guest at the dedication ceremony, who remarked, "So much has changed about Hingham in recent years. It's wonderful to establish the Ames Chapel as a place for community, a place that reminds us what was always so special about Hingham to begin with." The Junction Shop Mill in Worcester is a collection of 19th century historic industrial and manufacturing buildings. As is the story we hear so often, times shift and change, and the mill ended up being vacant in 2012 when Star Development Partners and Brady Sullivan stepped in to purchase the 250,000 square foot property. Drawing upon many years of experience, the team set out to create housing in what had once been a hazard to public safety. The project is a great model for successful mill adaptive reuse, and utilized important programs such as federal and state historic tax credits. The important role of the private sector in our preservation community cannot be understated. The work of Star Development, Brady Sullivan, and their team are critical to the continued success and impact of preservation in the 21st century. Preserving an historic building is only one part of the equation. How the building will be used is just as critical a puzzle to solve. Often, new and creative uses make the most of the unique historic elements and allow people to fully appreciate their community's past. The redevelopment of the Anoda building is one of the most exciting and transformative housing projects in Pittsfield. Allegroni companies saw potential in this underutilized portion of the city's main thoroughfare and sought to create new market-rate rental housing and street-level commercial space in the city center. The project met the untapped demand for market-rate apartments and brought a mix of young professionals, new families, and retired couples to make downtown their full-time home. The success of the Anoda 74 has recruited the attention of new businesses and restaurants to relocate to downtown Pittsfield and to make the old new and relevant yet again. Kresge Auditorium and the MIT Chapel, designed by Areo Saarinen and built in 1955, are world-renowned works of architecture and symbols on the university campus. In 2013, MIT commissioned a comprehensive renewal of the auditorium and chapel. While the primary purpose in renovating these buildings was to increase weatherability, energy performance, and safety, comfort, and accessibility, while reinforcing and enhancing the historic character of each building, it is only part of a much larger and richer story. The modern movement made a critically important contribution to the culture of Massachusetts and this region, and Kresge Auditorium and the MIT Chapel are two of the buildings that best symbolize the optimism and innovative spirit that informed the best of this work. The Taunton State Hospital's Women's Recovery and Addiction Program, or WRAP, has a powerful mission that provides civilly committed women with addiction access to comprehensive substance abuse disorder treatment in an environment conducive to recovery, rather than jail time. The restoration of the Chambers building at the Taunton State Hospital took place on a very short timetable, 1 year from conception to completion. But everyone who touched the WRAP project was wholeheartedly committed to its success. Positive lessons may be taken away from WRAP, including the resourcefulness and willingness that is needed in times of crisis to right a wrong, and the vision to reuse our historic buildings as they were once intended, to care and nurture those in need. The United Teen Equality Center, or UTEC in Lowell, is a remarkable and impactful organization with an equally impactful project, with the restoration of the former St. Paul's Church as their headquarters. UTEC is a model for historic reuse blended with energy efficiency as the oldest LEED Platinum certified building in the country, but also serving their important and innovative social mission. This project shows that historic preservation does not have to be mutually exclusive from energy efficiency goals, and is a great example of church reuse. The efforts that UTEC took in creating their headquarters show how dedicated this organization is to its community, and also how it looks ahead to make a better future for those who are part of their organization and their invaluable programs. The story of Commonwealth Landing is one that goes from vacant mill to vibrant mixed-use community in just 7 years. Recognizing the embodied potential in the mill, and also to encourage others to do the same, the Commonwealth Landing team began the mill restoration broken out over 2 phases. The result is an active and energetic community with restaurants, businesses, educational space, an art gallery, and the first market-rate multifamily residences in the city in over a generation. The success of Commonwealth Landing in Fall River has spurred additional investments in the area, including the popular Cove restaurant and massive infrastructure upgrades. In just 7 years, this mill went from being disinvested to being the center of a revitalization for the riverfront in Fall River, and proof that preservation is a critical tool for building for our future. Community goes hand in hand with preservation. Like partnerships, community is key for successful preservation work. The successful results will not only strengthen the community around the project, but also amongst those who utilized these restored buildings, and in some cases, create whole new communities where none existed previously. Formerly part of Malden Mills and the original manufacturing facility of Polartec Fleece, Loft 550 is the result of Wind Development's adaptive reuse of 6 historic mill buildings into 137 units of LEED-certified mixed-income housing. Loft 550 had a tremendous impact on the gateway city of Lawrence by providing much-needed affordable housing for a community in transition. The redevelopment improved the area surrounding Lawrence's Arlington Mills Historic District for residents and local businesses alike. Loft 550 is a remarkable example of effective historic adaptive reuse into the development of quality, affordable, amenity-rich multifamily housing. The revitalization of this property transformed a blighted industrial mill complex into a contemporary, prosperous, and transformative residential community. Constructed in 1915, the Osgood Bradley Building has been a landmark in downtown Worcester for generations. In 2015, Vision Properties acquired the building with the goal of creating 81 market-rate student housing units. As the first student-only housing development in the city, there was some initial reluctance to gamble on the venture, but the surrounding community voiced their support, with the Canal District Building Association stating, "We believe this project will bring economic activity. This development is consistent with our vision of our neighborhood as a mixed-use, 18-hour destination neighborhood. The success of Edge at Union Station has been called transformative in an area thirsty for new energy. It has retained an important part of Worcester's history and created space where new ideas, new people, and new life can contribute to the community and the city's downtown. The importance of our communities, the places that matter, are just as much about the natural environment as they are about the built environment. The connection between landscape and architecture, conservation and preservation is important, and their relationship is vital for understanding and appreciating the places in which we live. The Frederick Douglass Bandstand was constructed in 1887 as an open-air performance venue on Lynn Common. In 1944, the Lynn Common Council recommended that the bandstand be renamed in honor of Frederick Douglass, an ex-slave who devoted his life to the abolition of slavery and lived in the city from 1841 to 1845. Funded by the Gateway Cities Parks program, the project was only possible because of the dedication of the City of Lynn, residents, and the design team efforts headed up by Brown Richardson and Rowe and McGinley Calso. Though a seemingly small project, it had a big symbolic impact for the city, as the open space heart of Lynn's downtown is the Common. Its rehabilitation returns open-air performances to its original setting in a structure that has been restored to its original design. From the beginning, preservation has embraced innovation. It welcomes, if not demands, creativity, out-of-the-box thinking, technology, and new ways of bringing the past back to a new life and function in the 21st century. Responding to an ever-increasing demand for additional social space, Amherst College engaged Brunner Cott to renovate, preserve, and reuse their powerhouse, designed in 1925 by McKim, Mead, and White. The original coal-burning power plant was decommissioned in the 1960s and used as storage for facilities and grounds equipment. The powerhouse emphasizes contemporary design elements within a robust framework of historic preservation that highlights the existing classical form. The powerhouse is an expression of Amherst College's mission for its students to assume substantial responsibility for undertaking inquiry beyond the curriculum. From conception to construction through operation, this pioneering student space links learning, unparalleled artistic creation, community partnership, and student life. The multi-year design process of the Lunder Arts Center at Cambridge's Lesley University sought to balance the project's educational, urban planning, and sustainability ambitions with the preservation of the historic North Prospect Church. By relocating and repositioning the church on the site, architect Brunner Cott revived the sense of place and a strong participation in the streetscape, and returned the church's original details, massing, and proportions. Although the church underwent modifications as part of the project, all updates were linked by the goal of preserving its connection to the city. The church is now home to the College of Art and Design's art library, offices, design illustration studio, and is complemented by a new wing. Together, they create one combined work, a building that reflects the traditional and experimental, the historic and the new. All preservation projects have an impact in their own way. From Main Street projects to multi-building complexes, they each make their own imprint on the fabric of our Commonwealth. The Boston Public Library was the first large, free municipal library in the United States, established in 1848, and has been housed in Copley Square since 1895. In 1972, Philip Johnson designed a postmodern addition to the original structure for much-needed additional space. Consigli Construction, William Rahn Associates, and their team collaborated on the 156,000 square foot renovation of public floors that transforms the inward-facing addition to an inviting, light-filled public space that welcomes all and extends the library into the newly defined public plaza. This project's success was the result of the efforts of many, including the City of Boston and the Boston Public Library. Boston Public Library President David Leonard states, "A threefold success. We have fixed a 40-year-old architectural challenge to the urban landscape, transformed the space's usefulness for modern library services, and best of all, seen users new and old feel invited in, see them use every space, and engage with the library in innovative ways, and not just visit, but stay and return." The Cable Mills Apartments restoration in Williamstown is the result of long-term dedication of a core team with a big vision, all of whom highly value preservation, community development, and affordable housing. Beginning in 2003 with Bob Keane, then passing to Bart Mitchell and ultimately Dave Tregorth, there was a shared vision of what the site could and would be, held together by the designs of Feingold Alexander architects and a dedicated team. Cable Mills has not only had an economic impact, but others as well, from smart zoning changes to new ways of thinking about development that will influence future decisions about the town's role in Massachusetts' education economy, its role in the regional arts and cultural landscape, and as a model for addressing affordable housing. The story of Cable Mills shows us that our past can tell us about our path to a brighter future. Ultimately, preservation comes down to balance. The balance of old and new, past and future, then and now. What better way to remember and learn from where we have come than to reuse and revitalize what surrounds us? We build upon the past so that we may see how far we have come and to chart our courses forward. In 1973, the Regal Union Station in Springfield closed its doors. The Grand Station was constructed in 1926 and was a bustling gateway for the greater Springfield region. In its heyday, families, students, professionals, and travelers would come and go through its majestic atrium filled with vendors, commotion, and anticipation. There were 3 rail lines consisting of Boston and Albany, New York, New Haven, and Hartford, and Boston and Maine. But due to the rise of other transportation modes, rail service declined, and this once proud symbol of Springfield would sit waiting. 4 decades later, the time has come when it will once again welcome visitors and serve the city with a sustainable new intermodal transportation hub. The project could not have been completed without the ongoing and dedicated support of not only the City of Springfield, its Mayor Dominic Sarno, citizens, but also Congressman Richard Neal. On June 23, 1977, he stood in the grand concourse of the shuttered station, vowing to reopen it as he threw his hat into the ring for Springfield City Council. Now, 40 years later, that promise will be kept when the station officially opens its doors on that same date. For a building that is 90 years old and has spent almost half its life in a dormant state, the reopening of Union Station is an incredibly poignant and much anticipated moment in our collective history, and a wonderful example of then and now. Preservation is about more than just a building. It is about relationships, making the old new and relevant again, recycling, upcycling, and sustainability. It is breathing life back into our community centers and neighborhoods, providing services, and activating appreciation and pride in the places we call home. As times continue to change, we must not lose sight of the fact that understanding our collective history is imperative to creating a new and better future. We must continue to educate, to discuss, to forge new partnerships and new alliances. We must be prepared to lead by example, to demonstrate the impact that preservation has on not just historic buildings, but on our social fabric, our relationships, our communities, and more. We must show that preservation is a tool that utilizes the past to make a better future. We, as a collective industry and movement, are ambassadors of an ethic and are charged with demonstrating the power of preservation, dispelling misconceptions, and helping to incorporate it as a permanent part of our 21st century thinking. This is not an easy task, but everyone here this evening, and many more across the state and nation, have proved that they are up to the challenge. Each one of our Paul and Niki Tsongas awardees this evening has shown the power of preservation, and we offer you again our heartfelt congratulations and thanks. We look forward to sharing your successes as inspirational models that will carry the message of this evening ahead into the next several months and beyond. On behalf of Preservation Massachusetts, thank you all for believing in and showing the power of preservation. Thank you and good night.